gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's February the 6th, 2023. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined once again by our ever-popular managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. Matt, there's no news of the day. There's nothing to talk about. What restaurants did you eat at this weekend?
I had Detroit pizza at Square City Pizza in Midtown.
All right.
It was not, I'm used to New York pizza. I don't, look, it's great for people who want a giant piece of focaccia with a little bit of cheese on top of it. Not great for anybody who's had New York pizza and actually understands what New York pizza, if you like New York pizza, you're not going to like Detroit pizza. Let's just put it that way.
All right. Yeah, there's news of the day, and we're going to break it all down for you and talk a little about it a little bit right now. And Mario Cristobal is looking for 2 coordinators this morning, Matt. And it's interesting as heck, man. Kevin Steele goes to Alabama. That one kind of came a little bit out of nowhere this weekend. But you know what? Nick Saban needs somebody to come in. He's got a roster that's built, okay? And it's a little bit of a different situation than what we have here at Miami, where the roster is not built and it's a team in development. In Alabama, they've stacked recruiting classes. They have the players. And Kevin Steele is a rock-solid football coach. And I know people like to judge him, and they saw a lot of the busts and things in the secondary last year. And he runs a complicated scheme now, and he scaled it back for here at Miami. But at Alabama, he can go up there. It's a little bit more ready-made for him. He's an older coach. He's not really he doesn't really make an impact in recruiting. And I just think Alabama and the SEC, where he spent so much of his career, is a better fit for him. And I think this is a good thing for Mario Cristobal, because he now has openings to kind of reshape his coaching staff. You come in as a new head coach, you have to hire 10 assistants all at one time. You're trying to get them all right. It's a daunting task. Now, you don't have to hire 10 guys. You're going to end up hiring 3, 4, 5 guys. And it kind of lets you focus in a little better and have a better feel for what your needs are in that regard. So to me, Kevin Steele's departure, Matt, is a win-win in both directions. Obviously, the Josh Gaddis situation was a little bit of a mess and a curveball. I'm not necessarily going to call that a win-win. It would have been better if Josh Gaddis had succeeded at Miami. But now back to square one on both coordinator spots. The offensive coordinator position is right now, the search seems to be focused on Jason Candle from Toledo. He is the preferred candidate, okay? But I use the word candidate loosely because he can't be a candidate until he makes himself available to be a candidate. If he makes himself available to be a candidate, Jason Candle is going to get this job. But that's a big if. He passed on it last year, and he may pass on it again this year and send Mario Cristobal back to the drawing board where there are other guys, okay? And they're not necessarily guys whose names have been thrown out in the public. Mario likes to do this stuff behind the scenes. He does not like leaks. Leaks only make it more complicated. And there will be other guys if Jason Candle falls by the wayside. But as the weekend went on, I think efforts were geared towards trying to see if Jason Candle would be a candidate for the job. The defensive coordinator aspect of it is just beginning. All right, Matt, I've talked enough. Let's get your thoughts. Kevin Steele, good, bad, indifferent, and just your opinions on the general overall state of both of these coordinator job searches.
Well, the best idea I've heard so far, and would save a lot of money, is if the new defense, if they hire as the new defensive coordinator, hire Josh Gaddis because he made defenses look amazing last year. So it makes a lot of sense.
That's a cheap shot.
So listen, yeah, here's my thing. And look, I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on with the offensive coordinator search. Nobody does. People are throwing names against the wall. Mario's keeping it in a very, very small circle, and everyone's sworn to secrecy, blah, 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 blah. But with that said, my perception from both of his offensive coordinator searches so far, and I think this is fair to say, I really believe it, is that he wants to shoot for the stars, which is great. He wants to get guys like Doug Nussmeier or Jason Candle, guys who are in high demand, who other programs want. The issue that he's running into, whether good or bad, is he doesn't say to these guys, listen, you have the job. Here's what we can offer you. You have 24 hours to decide. What he seems to be doing is saying, we want you. Like, let us know. And then these guys go out and they look for better jobs and they keep Mario on the hook. And this is why fans get very agitated. Why haven't we hired somebody? What are we waiting for? I don't think
that's really the case, though, Matt, with Jason Candle. I think Jason Candle has been a no. Like, Jason Candle knew this job was coming open.
But see, that's what I'm saying. So why can't...
Because he's the best candidate for
Correct.
this job.
So it should already be a yes or a no, and we're done. Well, this is not new information that Mario just yesterday went after Jason Candle. This has been going on. Like, it should be done already.
I think he's willing to be patient. This guy is a really good candidate who potentially could be out there. Remember, he shares an agent with Mario.
I said, listen, I said, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm saying this is just what he does. It just takes forever because it's not.
It takes time.
You have 24 hours. Here's what we can do. Decide. It's not that, obviously. So it makes some fans upset. Anyway, moving to the other side, we say it's a win-win for Steele to leave. I mean, if Gary, a year ago, if I told you the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator would both be gone less than a month before the first spring practice next year, you would have said that was a win-win for either of these guys. I mean, this is a lose-lose.
But after watching this last year play out,
no.
And I know Kevin Steele is a good football coach, but he is not such a great football coach to overcome the personnel deficiencies that they had here. Number one, but they have to evolve in this football program away from Mario Cristobal having to recruit the entire recruiting class. And you and I, but we cover recruiting here at CaneSport harder than anybody, and we know that was almost the truth. I mean, every single recruit that you talk to, all they talk about is how Mario calls them every single day. Did we hear one recruit in this last cycle mention the words Kevin Steele?
Well, to me...
No, seriously. I don't remember that. Do you remember any recruit ever mentioning Kevin Steele?
I don't remember recruits mentioning Manny Diaz when he was the defensive coordinator. I don't remember recruits mentioning Mark D'Onofrio when he was defensive coordinators usually aren't recruiting. They're usually doing much more important things like figuring out who fits where on the defense and personnel problems. The assistants are supposed to be the amazing coaches on the field who work with these kids, who recruit them individually. It's not the defensive coordinator who does that, but listen.
Okay, but let me pause you for 1 minute, because I know you know the answers to these questions. Did we hear? And I don't want to throw every guy on the staff under the bus, but
no, we did not hear Kevin Steele's name. But I'm saying,
did we hear? And there's a lot of other names we never heard too, right?
What defensive coordinator's name have you ever heard at Miami that's been personally recruiting guys?
That shouldn't be the case. They're supposed to be assets.
Kids. Look, you got to have the right scheme. Like Josh Gaddis was supposed to recruit receivers, and I guess quarterbacks, even though he's not the quarterbacks coach. That should have been Frank Ponce, but he's not going to be the lead guy on running backs, on offensive linemen, on tight ends. Like, those guys are coming to Miami because their position coach will get them to the NFL, not because the offensive coordinator will. They just want to know what system the coordinator has. Once they understand that, it's just about the position coach and how they bond with that guy. But
let's say James Coley is the offensive coordinator.
Well, James Coley's a different animal. That's different.
That's different. He's one of the best recruiters in the country.
Right, that's different.
You're telling me the offensive coordinator wouldn't be making an impact in recruiting?
No, Miami's would not have had. Yeah, he's the unicorn. It's not normal. Just like Mario's not a normal head coach. It's not normal for the coordinator to individually recruit guys, but James Coley would do that because he loves doing it and he has the personality for it. But it's not normal. It's not a failure on Kevin Steele's part that recruits weren't mentioning his name, is all I'm saying.
I think it is a failure. It's a failure for this program at the state of development where it is. Okay. You have 10 assistant coaches. You cannot afford to have guys on this staff that are not great recruiters, and they must evolve. from Mario, one of the greatest recruiters in the country without argument, one of the best recruiting head coaches in the country without argument, having to recruit the entire recruiting class for 2024, 2025, and 2026 almost by himself. Like, it has to evolve away from that. And like having these openings gives him a chance to maybe slide things a little bit in the other direction. And I think that would be a great thing for him. It would be a great thing for the program. And, we'll see how it goes. But so Kevin Steele.
It sounds good on paper. Of course you want your coordinator to recruit guys. But the truth is, you can only send so many guys on the road. I will point out that when Mario flew up with Kevin Steele to one of these high schools on a helicopter, I was told Kevin Steele was told, stay by the helicopter by Mario. So, this was a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if Mario had a sense Steele was on his way out the door or not, but if he did, he wouldn't have taken him with him in the first place. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But listen, the bottom line is both these guys are gone. And if you talk to the top coaches around the country, they'll tell you the same thing, which is a lot of a program's success and longevity of success is based on coaching consistency. And that doesn't just mean having great coaches churning over every year with different coaches. It means having the same coaches stay there for a little bit of time and maybe one coach leave one year, maybe a couple another year, but not having both coordinators leave and having your fifth offense coordinator in 6 years, having another new defensive coordinator come in and have to learn the whole new system. I mean, these are every offensive player and every defensive player doesn't even have a playbook right now. Normally, they would have already been studying plays for months and would have known plays from last year. They have nothing. Recruits that
I'm going to tell you why that's not a negative too.
Recruits that enroll early, the second they sign, they're supposed to be able to get the playbook. There's no playbook to receive. So they're behind every other college in the country. They have to make up that ground once a coordinator comes in. That coordinator has to evaluate the personnel, figure out the best way to run the personnel, depth chart things, how he's going to, if he's going to try to run a different system because, Miami doesn't have enough DBs to run a 4-2-5 or whatever it is. Like they've got to figure it out. They got to figure out what they normally do versus what Miami has. It's not like they just come in overnight and say, here's the playbook, guys. You're the first teamer, you're the second teamer. They don't know Miami personnel. Miami fans think, of course they'll know James Williams and Cam Kinchins. They'll know Leonard Taylor. But it's more than just knowing 4 or 5 of the top players.
Half the team's missing spring practice anyway. So,
well, that's good news. That's another win-win, Gary. You just keep.
No, that is not a win. That's not a win-win.
Thank God.
My point is, there's going to be plenty of time to learn the playbook.
This is the best possible time to have new coordinators because half the team's out anyway. That's perfect. You're right. It's perfect.
No, there's plenty of time to learn the playbook, is what I'm saying. Listen, they need to simplify the schemes on both sides of the ball. Way too many busts last year on both offense and defense. Kevin Steele runs a complicated scheme. He told us one day that I think he said he was running like 35-40% of what he would like to be running. And there's just so many things and elements that need to go into all this between the recruiting and the football product.
Okay, first of all, you're totally missing the boat. It's not about simplifying. Kevin Steele has run defenses at the college level for 5,000 years. The fact that the Miami players only understood 35% of it speaks to the recruiting.
Well, but remember, he's coming in cold.
And the teaching that had been done here.
But it's not like he's building on what they did the year before.
Well, that's
he came in cold year one and is having to install a whole new scheme.
But in you have to put stuff in perspective. He was telling us that, obviously in frustration, that he felt they should have known more than 35% that he was trying to teach them. He could only run that much because they couldn't grasp 11 players at a time how to do the other 65%. That's why he was telling us that. He wasn't trying to, look, Kevin Steele said a lot of stuff that he probably shouldn't have. He would hang out in the meeting room
he was great.
After his press conferences and talk about how he wanted to retire and stuff. Someone was a little weird, okay? He was like a little weird guy, and he's talking about how one of his best friends is a reporter.
He's a good guy. He's
why everyone hates reporters. He's a little out there, which is actually why I liked him so much, because he was weird like me. You don't find that many weird people that you can relate to that, he probably shouldn't say that. I say a lot of stuff I know I shouldn't say also. So I like that guy. Like,
I love
Kevin
those
Steele.
little fireside chats after his press conferences.
Yeah, like he had nothing better to do on game week on a Tuesday than to hang out and chat with reporters about nonsense for half an hour after he was already done talking for half an hour. That was great.
He enjoyed it.
Yeah, he's a great guy, great defensive mind, great defensive coach. And I'm a little surprised that Alabama went back to him. I know he coached there before because it speaks to me. It speaks to the fact there's not a lot of great up and coming young defensive coordinators that Nick Saban or Mario Cristobal can find out there right now, which is problematic when you lose.
It is
Kevin Steele because like you have to replace him with somebody. So if you're looking for a young up and coming bright mind, you're going to the FCS level. You're going to like lower FBS level. You're not finding those guys right now because you know what?
And you're rolling the dice.
Are crushing every defensive coordinator's dream right now. And the ones that have figured out how not to have their dreams crushed are either in the NFL or coaching at Ohio State and Clemson, and where or become head coaches after they do really well. There's just not, those guys just aren't there. Mario's got a big problem with defense coordinator, in my opinion, because it's going to be slim pickings unless somebody comes free from the NFL at some point. If there's like some firings or something,
he doesn't have a problem. I'm going to tell you why. Because he can survey the landscape before he makes a decision and see what's out there and see what his options are. Okay,
Nick
but
Saban already did
has a guy in the building.
Nick Saban already did that and came to the conclusion, I need a 70-year-old guy who coached an okay Miami defense.
No. He's got a guy right now in the building that will want it and can take it if he chooses, and that's Charlie Strong.
Charlie Strong, sure.
Okay, so that is that's an option. So he's not in trouble. He just has to evaluate: do I want Charlie Strong, or is prospect A, B, C, or D better than Charlie Strong?
Great. So you're telling me Charlie Strong wasn't good enough last year, but now all of a sudden Charlie Strong is young. I'm not saying he's going to
give it to Charlie Strong.
Can I finish this?
I'm not saying he's going to give it to Charlie Strong. I'm saying he's not in trouble because he has the option of giving it to Charlie Strong. But if he doesn't give it to Charlie Strong, he better be prepared for Charlie Strong to leave because, and I posted this on the message board last night, I have sources at Alabama that tell me that Nick Saban has designs on bringing Charlie Strong back to Alabama with Kevin Steele. So if Charlie Strong doesn't get the DC job, he might go to Alabama. I mean, we don't know this yet, but that's not going to hang over Mario's head. I mean, he's going to survey the landscape as he should, and he's going to make a decision based on who he thinks is the best guy out there.
I mean, again, you're letting me talk. Charlie Strong has not been a defense coordinator in 15 years. He wasn't good enough.
I'm not campaigning.
Just let me talk for 2 seconds.
I'm not campaigning.
You said there's a chance he could be promoted, so I'm trying to tell you why that's a problem. Hasn't been a defense coordinator. Hasn't been a coordinator in 15 years. Wasn't good enough last year to be Miami's coordinator. So why all of a sudden, what did he show last year that all of a sudden this year he can be the coordinator? That he had a bad linebacker core last year, that gets him promoted to defense coordinator? That's how this works now? If I do a bad job, Gary, and continue to write horrible, stupid stories that nobody reads, which is the current case, does that mean I get a promotion? Because I'm ready for a huge promotion based on all the stupid nonsense stories I've written in the last year. You should make me the president of the entire On3 network based on what I've been doing if you're going to give Charlie Strong this promotion for coaching the linebackers.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. And like I said, I'm not campaigning for anybody. I don't know who.
You said Mario would not be in trouble if Charlie Strong's the coordinator. Now all of a sudden it is a problem. I'm confused.
What I'm saying is, like, Charlie Strong's been a coordinator before. Like, it's not like
years ago.
It's not like he would be. I understand.
It was different offenses back then.
But he was the head coach at Texas. He was the head coach of South Florida. He was involved in the defenses there. Yeah, it's not like he's forgotten defense. No, but I agree. If your point is that Mario should be looking to see if there's better than that out there for him, I would agree with that. Absolutely. I am not proposing that he hire anybody. I'm just saying that I wouldn't use the word trouble because he does have the Charlie Strong option in this equation. And, who else is out there? People, Jim Leonard, the Wisconsin defensive coordinator. I mean, from what I'm hearing, that guy does not have any plans on coaching this year. So it's like, it's not as easy as people want to think it is. You can we could put a hot board out, which some people have done, and throw out every name in the book. But if none of them are available for the search, what the heck is the point of that? And so, it's not as easy as people think. Oh, geez, let's go get this guy. Let's go get that guy. Those guys have to want to be considered for the job for their candidacy to be legit. And in most cases, most of the names thrown out for these jobs are not legit candidates because they don't want to be candidates for that particular job. So anyway, the timeline, Matt, there's been a lot of panic on the message boards that, Josh Gaddis has been terminated now for 9 days or whatever it's been, and his replacement hasn't been named yet. Mario knew Josh Gaddis was going to be terminated before he was actually terminated. So this search has actually probably been going on for a couple weeks, quite frankly.
Longer than this. It's been going on longer than that.
Yeah, and I think it started and is still in the same place with Jason Candle. And, you put yourself in Mario Cristobal's shoes. If you really want Jason Candle, you're not going to go hire Matt Shodell until you have exhausted every single effort to try to hire Jason Candle. That is your guy.
Have you ever dated a girl, Gary? Have you ever said to a girl, "Hey, do you want to go to dinner? Do you want to go to dinner Friday night? Oh, I have other plans. What about Saturday night? I have other plans. Sunday night, I have other plans. Just call me." They don't say, "Oh, I'll call you." No, call me. I'll let you know. That's basically how they're treating Mario right now. Is how it's perceived, because he's, like you said, there
are other candidates. There are other guys that have been interviewed. There's always the James Coley factor in this that, and you and I know James Coley would be a great hire. But, there are some roadblocks that might keep that from happening right now. But he's always a possibility. I mean, Mario could hire James Coley in 5 seconds. If he called James Coley up and said, "James, I want you to be my offensive coordinator," deal. Like it's not even it's not even a discussion. So, he's always over there. So it's not a panic situation for Mario the way it is for some of our fans. And that's why I'm trying to discuss this right now. I want to put everybody at ease. This is not a panic situation. There is no timeline. There is no deadline. Okay. The important thing is that Mario makes sure he gets the right guy in these hires, because he got sold a bill of goods last year on Josh Gaddis. Let's tell the truth. Okay. And he would obviously never say that. You're not going to hear him make excuses. He's not going to ask for forgiveness. He got sold a bill of goods. He thought he's hiring the Gaddis. I mean, the Broyles Award, the Broyles Award winner. Josh Gaddis came very highly recommended by a lot of people in the football world, and he ended up not being what he was supposed to be. Okay. Plus, there were issues beyond just the football aspects of it. And it turned into one big mess that Mario had to get himself out of, and he did. Okay. Give him credit. He got out of it. Okay. But he does not want that. He's not going to want that to happen again. All right. And he's got to do his homework, and he's got to take his time and do his due diligence and try to make sure that whatever he does here this time around, and it's not going to linger forever. I think this is going to happen pretty soon. But he's got to make sure that he gets somebody that will count this time around.
Oh, maybe he can also get the Toledo defensive coordinator, who he get both coordinators. We could be
that
Toledo
guy's supposed to be pretty good. What's his name?
Vince. I can't pronounce the last name.
What's his name?
Vince Caris. I can't remember.
Yeah. I've heard that guy's supposed to be pretty good. I don't know that much about him.
He was with Jason Candle, I think, at Mount Union. So I mean, they go back a ways. So yeah, let those two buddies come down together. We could be Toledo South. That'd be great. But the other thing is, these coordinators do like to bring in. Obviously, Vince wouldn't vote on them, but they like to bring in their own staff that they know and trust, and know they work well with and bond well with, like under them. So that's also part of the whole thing here. I mean, if Jason Candle came, a guy he's been working with for God knows how many years as the offensive line coach at Toledo, would fall by the wayside, right? Unless he somehow fit in on the staff. I don't think Mario's letting Alex Mirabal go anywhere, right? So these are all issues. Some of these head coaches, believe it or not, just like what happened with Al Golden, they don't want to leave their friends hanging. These are lifelong friends that they've had. And to say, I'm taking a job and I don't have a spot for you, it's tough for some of these guys. Some of these offensive coordinators who can.
You think I was leaving you at Rivals when we moved to On3? No, there's no
fucking way.
There's no chance of that.
Right. So this is a problem for Mario that he's sort of locked in with a bunch of these coaches at Miami. A, because of buyouts. B, because they're his friends. And it doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room when he's trying to negotiate with an offensive coordinator and potentially a defense coordinator who are high level that want to take their friends with them, that know, hey, I have a great situation with these guys. We get along great. I don't want to have butting heads. You know how football coaches can be. I mean, we hear about it all the time. There have been some bad situations at Miami, including with Frank Ponce and Josh Gaddis, where these guys just don't really necessarily always agree on everything. And it's not like all going in one direction. You can't have that. Any great offensive coordinator knows you can't have that. It blows up in your face. And that's going to be something that any coordinator is going to have to deal with, because Mario is not getting rid of Alex Mirabal. Mario may have a tough decision on Stephen Field if some new coordinator insists he needs some new coaches to come in. But it's not a great situation. You got a quarterback coaching spot that'll be taken by the coordinator. You have a receivers coach job open, and right now that's it. You got one job to offer somebody. It's not ideal for a new coordinator to come in who's a high level guy.
It's an interesting point you just made, though. I mean, if you need another spot, does Stephen Field end up going inside the building to fortify the recruiting effort?
He's great at recruiting, man. He's a great recruiter.
Listen, I think Mario needs him there a lot more than he needs him. I pray Stephen Field is sleeping in this morning, because he would never want to hear me say this, but they need some help, man. Like, they need more reinforcements on the recruiting side, and he would be unbelievable. I mean, he would be just absolutely incredible in that role. So a lot could happen here. It'll be interesting to see where all this goes. Interesting time for the program, and I get everybody's anxiety. Everyone's excited. They want it. They want us to tell them about every single interview and stuff. If we screw up Mario's coaching searches, we're going to be banned from the building, quite frankly. And there's nobody that's reporting anything on these things. I mean, I don't, people are throwing stuff out. They try to get attention. They'll throw stuff on Twitter. Look at me, click on this, click on that. I mean, we're sitting here now 9 days into this, and I can unequivocally tell you that I have not seen one thing reported by anybody that has any real credibility at all. And we're not, and I'm going to include us, because we are not just throwing garbage out there at you guys. Okay. Jason Candle has legs. Okay.
Yeah, Candle and Kevin Beard, that's great hires. And the other interesting person that's on that staff right now, by the way, is a gentleman by the name of Robert Weiner. You remember him?
Yeah. Remind me who he is. Yes.
He coached Robert Marv at Plant High School, Tampa Plant.
Yes.
So he's on the staff. He's the quarterbacks coach over there and co-coordinator. So there's some interesting ties there. But I think it's a home run. If they get Candle, I never am happy about anything. But if they get Candle and if they get Kevin Beard, that's a home run. I mean, let's face it, that's a grand slam. That's as good as it gets. If Mario can make that happen, if it took an extra 3 weeks and they get in the day of the first spring practice, I don't care. I'm taking those two guys, no doubt.
Yeah. And then I'm doing whatever I got to do to get James Coley to come here too.
Yeah, then you may have to have, like we said, a Stephen Field move around.
If I'm the GM, that's what I'm doing. I whatever it takes. I don't care. You might have to pay him. It might cost you a little money, but
give him a title, and co-coordinator and whatever's coach, and let him just do whatever he does.
Yeah, Jason Candle, James Coley, and Kevin Beard added to the equation.
That's a home run.
That would be a home run.
Yeah, so, that'll cost a lot of money, though. I mean, I'll tell you right now. So
it will cost a lot of money. Yep. So we'll see what happens, but I hope that gives everybody a little bit of an update where things are. Sorry that you don't know who the next two coordinators are going to be just yet. Have patience. Have patience. We're on the case every minute of every day. We report what we can. We try to be out in front for you guys, and we were successful yesterday.
Yeah, and by the way, I will tell you guys. I mean, Gary knew about Kevin Steele leaving. He just couldn't report it initially.
Well, I did report it 12 hours
and
before.
You did report it, but you knew even before that because we had talked about it, and we just couldn't report it yet. But
I had to make sure it was going to happen first.
Right.
I couldn't.
Right. I mean, the point is, we're not always going to have it first, but we're going to have it right. That's our motto. We have the meats. We have it not always first, but right. And sometimes we do have it first. In this case, Gary did have it first. But in this media age, rush to judgment, I don't know why everyone wants it first. Like, I want it right. Anybody could throw out 3 or 4 different names and get it right at the end of the day.
Football scoop. Doug Nussmeier is name of interest in the Miami search.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
Nussmeier is in Baltimore interviewing for the offensive coordinator position with the Baltimore Ravens, and Football Scoop, and it goes viral all over America that Doug Nussmeier is one of the leading candidates at Miami. I mean, is that what you guys really want fed to you? Like, I don't know, man. I mean, I can't, I don't think so. And we don't do that. So, but anyway, I think that it's going to happen soon enough. Have patience. The timeline is totally irrelevant. There's no penalty taking place here for taking a few extra days to get these things done. I don't see any negatives whatsoever. There will be enough time to do the installs for spring practice. Okay. All right. We got some other stuff that we will talk about today, but first, let's hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
Hey, Morgan, what are you going to do?
I have to go to practice.
Me too.
Well, don't forget your life wallet.
Oh my gosh, I always forget my life wallet.
You forget everything.
I can't go anywhere without my life wallet.
LifeWallet. Saving time, saving lives.
All right, Matt. So this morning we continue our series evaluating the team with spring ball starting in about a month, and we're breaking down talent depth, giving our performance projections. So if you count over the weekend, we've got the running backs on the site today, the receivers, the tight ends. This is your baby. So I'm just going to throw it to you and let you talk about those 3.
All right. I'm not going to belabor it.
No, people can read them, but
yeah, exactly. People can read them. But the purpose of this, I always try to make stuff a little different. I just want to make it, here's who's back, here's what their stats were. To me, like, that's not fun to write. I don't think it's fun to read, although maybe some people who are boring people enjoy reading those types of things. I don't really know. So what I did in this particular exercise is at each position, I am grading the talents, including Pro Football Focus information. And then I'm grading the depth of that position, giving the grade, just like talent-wise. So the talent grade and the depth grade are different. And since Gary seemed confused about this before, I'm going to explain it to you in much easier terms. Okay? Talent would be like me. Depth would be like if there was 5 of you. All right? So that's a good way to understand it. And then I also project the season results of the position, and I do a final analysis of each position. So, I'll just run through them real quick. At running back, it's you and I argued about this. When I wrote it, this is how it actually happens, and it's very upsetting to everybody out there. I know. I write the story, and then Gary tells me to change stuff. So when I wrote
come on, that happens very infrequently.
So when I wrote it is true. It's very infrequent. So when I wrote the running back story, I really felt strongly that we, as our projected first teamer for the first game of the season, it may be a little unlikely, but I felt strongly that we should list Mark Fletcher. And I didn't want to do co-first teamers, co-second. This series is about this is what we think. This is what we actually believe.
We did debate this one. We did. This is the
first team, the second team, the third team, and that's it. Just one player at each spot. I don't care if they're battling in spring camp and battling it out in the final week of the fall. This is who we think, Gary and I, me writing it first and then him correcting all the mistakes. This is who we think will be the first teamer when the first game starts, right? I mean, this is not like, oh, let's hedge our bets and list 3 co-first teamers like other
Who's
people.
starting at running back against Miami of Ohio?
Yeah. So I really wanted it to be Mark Fletcher because I think Mark Fletcher is the best running back on the roster now, okay, without him ever even playing a spring practice. I based that on Henry Parrish being an average to slightly above average running back. I don't think we need that at Miami. You know, Henry Parrish was okay last year. He ran for whatever, 500 yards, 4 point whatever yards a carry. I mean, he was okay. You know, he ran hard. He couldn't create on his own. Didn't seem to break a lot of tackles. And he was a 4th stringer at Ole Miss before he got here. So, you know, nothing there screams to me, this guy is the next, you know, I was going to say Walter Payton, but I guess Jarrett Payton. I don't know. The next whoever, you fill in the blank. I think Jarrett Payton had 1 good year, right? So I wanted Mark. Gary insisted on listing Henry Parrish as the first.
But tell him why. I mean, why did I say Henry Parrish will take the first snap next year?
Because
Fletcher's not even on the team yet.
Because Henry Parrish is obviously paying you a lot of money for your NIL deal.
No, Mark Fletcher's not coming to campus until the summertime. He's got to get in. He's got to get in physical condition. He's got to learn the playbook. He's got to acclimate to college. There's gonna be a lot going on in Mark Fletcher's life next July and August. Okay.
Let me tell you something. Okay. Running back, I agree. Look, Henry Parrish wasn't great at pass protection, but he was okay, you know. But you're right. Mark Fletcher could have problems in pass protection. He's physical enough to do it, but there's a lot to do technically. But when you put the ball in somebody's hands, I want it in Mark Fletcher's hands. Period.
And I think it will be in his hands plenty.
I think he will carry the ball more than Henry Parrish. I would bet money on it right now that that's what happens by the end of the season.
I would agree with that. I would agree with you on that.
That, to me, that's the first teamer. I'm sorry.
First teamer is who's the first teamer when the games begin.
Your first
and I think that's going to be Henry Parrish.
Yeah, your first team running back is based on, who's here in spring practice? That's the first teamer for the first game. Genius.
I don't believe that a true freshman is walking on campus in June, is going to practice for the first time August 5th, and in 3 weeks of fall practice is going to be the first team running back for the Miami Hurricanes against Miami of Ohio. Maybe I'll end up being wrong and he will be, but I don't believe it'll play out like that. I think Henry Parrish, if he's healthy, will be the starter on September, what is it, the 4th this year? What's the date? The date is of the Miami Ohio game.
I don't think nobody's going to it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I believe.
I don't want to take this too long, but and we did also have a slight debate. I put Christopher Johnson as the 3rd team, which puts 2 true freshmen. Gary's going to have a conniption, but 2 true freshmen who apparently Gary says they can't possibly play because they're not showing up till June. You only have 2 months. 2 months. What can you get accomplished in 2 months? I mean, I don't know. Apparently nothing. So they have no chance of playing. I don't know why they're even on the 3 deep that we put out. I'll change the whole thing, I guess, Gary. And maybe we can get Jalen Knighton back and Thaddeus Franklin back, and that way you'll be happy and have people who actually have played in the spring before, because apparently that's a prerequisite for them to be on the depth chart. So let's just do that.
All right. So we've got those stories on the website this morning. Make sure.
It?
Yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna keep debating all this stuff with you.
Really?
They can read. You guys can read the stories and make your own judgments.
Yeah, and then by the way, the receivers, we do the same thing: 3 deep, 3 deep, 3 deep at the X, slot, and Z. Which under the new coordinator, I believe, will be called. What are we going to call them, Gary? We got to give them new names. I think under the new coordinator, they'll be called Flash and Playmaker. And what do you always say? They need a number 1 receiver. So number 1 receiver. Those will be the 3 new positions: Flash, Playmaker, and number 1 receiver. That's what I want the new coordinator to call the 3 positions on offense. I'm done with the X's and the Z's and the all this stuff. Let's get rid of the regular terminology. Let's do something different. No more slot. It hasn't been working. X, Z, and slot has not been working for the last 12 months. Let's rename them completely. Let's just revamp everything.
Yeah. That's fine.
That's
call them whatever you want. Does it really matter what they're called? It really doesn't. All right. Hey, we got a lot of recruiting stuff on the website this morning. I know you guys all got to get to work. I'm not going to go through all the individual recruiting updates. Most of them are 2024, 2025 kids that are just getting The recruitment of them is just getting started. We're just trying to do as many stories on these kids as we can, just so you could start getting familiar with the names, so that if it gets serious with them as things go forward here over the next few months, you will have heard of them before. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. And you'll find all that on the site. Okay. Jim Martz, our resident baseball expert, catches up with Gino Damari for his take on this year's Miami team with the season around the corner. We also had a feature on relief pitcher Ronaldo Gallo, so you can check that out as well if you're a baseball fan. And then, of course, the Miami basketball team made a move this weekend. They went on the road to Clemson, the number one team right now in the ACC, and they beat the Tigers on their home court. And that puts Miami smack back in the middle of the ACC race after a few disappointing losses on the road. The one they're really going to regret, though, is the loss about a month or so ago at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has one ACC victory to this point in the season, Matt, and it was against Miami, which might be the best team in the conference. And I think I really think they are the best team in the conference. They beat Clemson on the road. They beat Virginia earlier this year. I thought they looked better to me than Virginia. And they play Duke tonight at home. If you're local, make sure you go to that game. It should be a great one. Duke beat them in a one-possession game, I guess, about a week and a half ago in Durham. And now Duke is coming here to the Watsco Center, and it should be a great game tonight. And we'll have coverage of that, obviously, on the website this evening. But, Matt, to sum it all up, I think the basketball team, I didn't like some of the things I was seeing a week or two ago, but I write a column this morning about Jim Laranaga's search for one more piece that he knows that he can count on. And I know it sounds like, come on, man, like he's already got a plethora of riches here. You got four guys in Nigel Pack, Isaiah Wong, Jordan Miller, and Norchad Omier, who are like great players, and they are. All four of them are great players. How many teams in the country have four guys that are great players? Not many. And Miami, to me, is the best team in the ACC and is a legit threat to go very deep again in March Madness. Okay. But if that's going to happen, I still think they need one more guy to step up. And I'm looking at Wooga Poplar as my top candidate. The kid's got all the ability in the world. I mean, Jim Larinaga brought him up a week or so ago and said he didn't think he was going to get there this year. And I think he was sending Wooga Poplar a message, because Wooga's played better the last couple games, and he had a really good game at Clemson. This is a kid that can shoot the three. He's long. He's athletic as hell. He can jump out of the gym, and he's becoming more of a defensive force. And if he just can stay under control on the offensive side of the floor and be a complementary player, I think he can help them a lot and could be a big difference maker. You'll remember in last year's game against Kansas, he had those two wide open shots at the top of the key at a critical point early in the second half, and he clanked them. Okay. If he makes one of them, or certainly both of them, that game might have gone differently. And so Wooga Poplar, to me, is a key guy on this team because he's not there yet, and they have a month here to get him there. Matt, any closing thoughts on the basketball team?
Yeah, I mean, Poplar played great last game, but the whole Jim Boeheim thing from yesterday sort of cracked me up. Did you see all that stuff on what he said?
Yeah, he's been buying players for years. And now all of a sudden he's like,
the funny part was
players.
Yeah, I mean, the funny part was that they're buying teams, which is legal. I mean, you're allowed to buy a team. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you can complain about it all you want, but it's called NIL deals. But he claims that it was Pitt, Wake Forest, and Miami were the three teams that bought their teams. It's not fair. This is why, Coach K retired. This is ridiculous. And then later on he says, I misspoke. Wake Forest and Pitt didn't buy their teams. That's what he says. Leaving Miami. So, of course, Miami should be the best team in the conference. I don't understand why what are we in third place or something? Or tied for third place. Like, what is Jim Larinaga doing wrong? Apparently, we're the only team that's been bought in the whole conference. We should be undefeated. We're paying our players, Jim Boeheim says, and we're still not in first place. Fire Larrañaga. It's ridiculous. I'm sick of it.
Yeah, he's annoyed. He's annoyed that John Ruiz bought Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier. Like,
and guess what? And he got Isaiah Wong to stick.
Yeah, but I think Isaiah Wong would have stick.
But it's legal. And guess what? Miami's not the only school that's doing it. I don't know why Jim Boeheim thinks it's only Miami. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. He even literally said that his players are getting $20,000, each or something. Like, does that not count? Is that not fine?
My guys are getting $20,000. Nigel Pack's getting $400,000.
Yeah, it's only if you pay $400,000 a year, then you're buying a team. His players don't get enough money is what he was trying to say. He's saying, I bought my team, but I bought my team cheap. He's like saying, he went to McDonald's and, Jim Larrañaga is going to Carbone. Like, it's not your fault that you're going to Carbone because you got all the good money and the good places to eat. It's not your fault that you have to go to McDonald's, Jim Boeheim. Like, I'm sorry,
He's just annoyed because Nigel Pack hit all those threes against them a couple weeks ago. And
listen, Larrañaga's doing a great job. I mean, you see, the thing with Larrañaga is you see his players get better as the season goes along. That's all you can ask for from a coach. He's a great coach because every single year you see his team get better and his players get better unless they're all getting hurt. And it's not like once in a while. It's every single time you see the guy on the floor coaching. I mean, he's a brilliant coach. He really is. And he buys his team. So on top of that, a great coach and he buys his team. I mean, it's a perfect scenario.
All right, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. We thank you guys so much for starting out your day with us. And if you like this show, like our YouTube channel, hit your subscribe button, hit your like button. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, please come join our community of fans where you could commiserate and complain and rip Mario because he's not acting quick enough for you in hiring his coordinators, and just have that kind of fun with everybody every single day of the year. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you once again. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.